I'm mainly referring to my sexuality as being not straight. And so for me, I chose to use queer as my sexuality term because I, as a non-binary person, most of the identity terms within sexuality are made to be used by binary people. Gay is meant to be used by men who like men. Lesbian is supposed to be, all this is just society. Lesbian is used by women who like women, or bisexual is used for one gender who likes both genders. And now I obviously know that bi has taken on new meaning to be 2+ genders, but the words in the history of how they were created were meant to support people within the binary and excluded folks outside of binary. So I no longer felt comfortable using gay, definitely not lesbian, or bi because of the limiting nature of like how they came into terms and how people still use them today. Right. And so when someone asks me, well, like, what does queer mean for you? I am comfortable further defining it, mainly because I'm so openly, visibly queer in my advocacy. Because it's completely fine if someone identifies as queer and then they do not want to further define it. I would strongly challenge everyone that it is totally fine to have these conversations with people and you can ask questions in a respectful way, but please, 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 if someone is not comfortable sharing more detailed information with you or they don't even want to use a label, do not pressure them. It is no one's job to label themselves. It is solely there if that's something that the person wants to use. So for me, my queer sexuality meant that I am not straight. It meant that I am expansive in the ways that I experience my romantic attraction, my sexual attraction, my mental emotional attraction. And so a term that I use more specifically for that would be that I'm pansexual. And the way that I define pansexual is that if I vibe with someone, then I vibe with someone. And that vibe is based off of shared values, characteristics, energies, and that person's gender is secondary. It's not important to me as my connection with that person is. And so then to connect my pansexuality, I also identify as demisexual, or at least partially demisexual, which means that in order for me to have a meaningful relationship or lasting relationship, I need to have this emotional or this mental bond or connection before I feel a physical or sexual attraction to someone.
Agreed. I feel like maybe I'm demisexual as well. I feel like I need to have an emotional connection with someone before I can move on to the next step with them, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. So I would just say that queer, because then with my gender, I would just say the whole idea of queer is pretty much saying fuck you to the binary. It's pretty much just saying like we are purposefully going against your traditions because your traditions are harming marginalized people. And so for me, going by queer sexuality and gender queer or non-binary transmasc as my gender is a way for me to both internally come to terms and feel at home with who I am and being proud of the community that I'm in. But then also I'm in a privileged space where I am able to be very visible. I'm able to be very vocal. And that is a privilege without a doubt. It's not something that is given. And so I want to use my privilege to speak my truth, to share my story, and to uplift other trans folks' stories. And one way to do that is by using these more politically charged terms like queer.
That is absolutely amazing. I just see all the comments coming in saying how people are learning so much and this is amazing. I mean, this is really helpful. Like even for me, it's like ridiculously helpful. So before we let's get into some of these questions here. I'm actually going to there's a lot of stuff going on here. Let's scroll up to the top here and make our way down.
Sounds good.
Asked if you were a specific type of Jewish person. I don't know if you can see that. Matthew 1 type.
Okay, so yes, I am an Ashkenazi Jew. So yes, Ashkenazi. Yes, Ashkenazi Jew means it's pretty much the encompassing term for Jewish folks, like European Jewish folks. So I am a German Polish Jew. Okay. I actually did lose family in the Holocaust. And actually yesterday and today is the Holocaust Remembrance like yard site where we light candles and such. But yeah, so if that was the question, I am an Ashkenazi Jew, which also made Passover extremely difficult because if you are Ashkenazi, your dietary restrictions are so much more restricted than if you are Sephardic. Because we aren't allowed to eat legumes, so like no soy. I'm a pescatarian. I couldn't have any of my soy protein. Can't have corn. You can't have rice. You can't have grain, and then that's on top of not having chametz, which is leavened food. So it was a struggle. But the whole point is that we are trying. The whole point of Passover is that we are celebrating the freedom of the Jewish people from enslavement under Pharaoh in Egypt over 3,000 years ago. And so we are experiencing a form of the pain of our ancestors to be appreciative and celebrate where we are today.
Wow. You know, I had no idea there was more than one type of Jewish person. I had no idea. I literally had no idea. So that's another thing that I've learned just right now in the last 20 minutes. This is amazing. Yes. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. I think you answered this already, though. Someone's asking if you're still on tea. You are still taking tea, correct?
I am, yes. I still take tea. My shot is sub-Q, so I grab my tummy and I inject via needle into my tummy once a week. I have my little Stealth Bros kit, and so it's a mess in here. Yes, look at all those little kits. I have like my contacts, my retainer, my blush, all that. But then in my little side pocket, I'm just gonna unzip it. I have my testosterone, which I inject 1 ml once weekly as directed. So this is my little testosterone, and I use this. Oh, that's not my needle. That's the one that they gave me if I'm having a difficult time pulling the liquid. This is the thicker needle. I do not use it, but I use this one to pull the testosterone and then also to inject the testosterone. This one is a 3 ml sub-Q syringe. Okay. And then I like to, if I have access to fun Band-Aids, then I like to use fun Band-Aids, because who doesn't like to spice up their tea shot?
You know what I'm saying?
But yes, I am still on tea. Yes,
so,
indeed.
Okay, that's awesome. So you can definitely be non-binary. You can definitely identify as queer, whether that's on the gender side or on the sexual side, and still take tea, and you're still a valid person.
Absolutely. And actually, something I do want to say is that for taking testosterone, there are both permanent, semi-permanent, and like effects that will immediately go away if you stop taking tea. And so for me, the sole reason when I initially started tea, it was for the only reason that I wanted to masculinize my body. Mm-hmm. And so interestingly enough, the only non-permanent effect of testosterone is masculinizing your body. And so in order for me to continue to have the masculine body that I want and need for myself, I would have to continue to take tea for the rest of my life to continue to have the masculine appearance. Because that is the first thing, like your body fat and body weight will redistribute to feminize if you stop taking testosterone, because your body will start naturally producing estrogen again. That was the sole reason why I wanted tea. So I currently foresee myself being on tea. Could that change? Absolutely. I have no idea what the future has to hold. All I know is that I'm in this process to learn more about myself, find happiness and serenity and euphoria with my body and my mind. And there's no way of knowing ever if something is 100% correct for someone. And that's something I always say.
Right, because we're always changing, we're always growing. So you just never know. So that's an amazing thing to put out there for anybody who's questioning themselves or trying to figure out, if they should start tea or if they shouldn't start tea. It's just, you have to really dig deep into yourself, and it may be right for you right now, it may not be right for you later, but ultimately life changes and you just got to roll with the punches, right?
Exactly. And the truth is that testosterone has, because you should definitely take testosterone under the guidance of a physician. The physician who starts you on testosterone will start you on a lower dose to make sure that you don't have allergic reaction, your body's accepting the hormone, all that such. And through your physician who is prescribing testosterone, you can work with them to see what shot works with you and your body, and your needs. So is that a sub-Q shot once a week, or is it once every other week? Is that an intramuscular shot once a week, every other week? Is it the gel? Right? There are so many, or maybe you start by taking the shots and then you get to, let's say, 5 months or 2 years and you're like, this is my ideal physical home. Then maybe in order to upkeep the effects that you currently have, you talk with your physician to see if changing to the gel is better for you. Right. To keep what you want, but then maybe not progress into having X, Y, or Z. So there's so many different ways that folks can choose to find like the proper dosage that works for them, the right amount of time, because there are plenty of folks, whether trans masc, trans femme, are just simply trying to find comfort in their bodies. And because we are trans people who grew up in a society that I received negative messages or didn't understand that being trans wasn't a death sentence. So for me, I wasn't even sure if I could medically transition, especially being a non-binary person. Then one day I realized that it doesn't matter what your gender identity is. It matters how you know yourself to be and how you know your physical body to be, and aligning that in that way.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. Let's go to the next question, and it's from Sai. He says, Lex, do you, as a non-binary person, feel equally accepted by the trans femme community and the trans masc community? Do you feel any difference there?
Great question. Interestingly enough, I will say that I did have a significant negative experience within the queer community generally, and then also the binary trans masc community. A little while ago, I had made a post about like what it would be like to raise children gender neutral, or like what the pros and cons are for decreasing the negative mental health effects of being forced into a gender or an identity that doesn't belong to someone. And so, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Can you remind me where I was? I just like, whew.
You were talking about whether or not to...
The non-binary and trans. Yes. Okay. And so in that, I actually received a lot of hate from people who were cisgender and queer, and then folks who were trans men, who took it upon themselves to say that non-binary, trigger warning, a lot of negative things coming out of here, to say like non-binary isn't real, non-binary is a mental disorder, called me many rude and dehumanizing names, got death threats, was told to kill myself. And this was all because I was openly talking about me being non-binary, and then the ways in which us as adults or people in society can move away from gender norms and stereotypes so that children can grow up to be the best version of themselves. Correct. And so I never expected to come across negativity within the queer community, let alone against other trans people. So that was a big wake-up call for me, was realizing that just because I'm trans doesn't mean that I will be accepted or loved by everyone in the trans community, especially I've received the most pushback and hate and threats, quite honestly, from binary trans men.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with that, you guys.
Yeah, I am not happy with that either.
That's one thing, you may not, there's a lot of things about non-binary people and queer folk that I really don't understand. But at the end of the day, you have to respect people, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that look at me and may not accept who I am as a person, even though, I pass as this, trans male and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, you still can show respect. You know what I mean? And if that's the way that you want to raise your children, because you feel that that's what's best for them, then people need to step back and respect that. You know what I mean? Even if they may not understand it, because, they're just ignorant to the fact, but just having respect towards someone to say, okay, I may not get why you want to do that, but I do respect you. And as long as you're a good human being, I don't understand what the problem is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's on like the basis of my advocacy work, of just like my human existence, is that like I am truly an open book. Like anyone who is watching this can DM me or email me, and I will have a open, welcoming, judgment-free conversation. And that is available to folks who disagree with me. I would honestly love it if I got more messages from folks who disagreed with me, or who were confused, or who just want to know more, because the reason why I am living so openly is so that I can have those conversations with people, that as long as we are both coming from a place of respect and acknowledgement. I by no means am going to, I have no desire to force my opinions or my values down other people's throats. What I want is for my voice to be heard. I can hear other people's voices, and then we can have a conversation about like what conflicts about our opinions.
Amen. Amen to that. So anyone who has questions or conflictions or doesn't understand, because I know that a lot of transmasculine folk follow Stealth Bros. I know that they follow me, and then a lot of non-binary folks follow you, and they're all joining here with us today. So it's really good that we're hearing all this, because I really think it's going to open the door up for people to understand more and accept us as a whole community. We can't just, we are part of the LGBTQ community, and we need to accept every letter in that statement. You know what I mean? So it's really important for us to connect with each other and to understand each other. And especially if we don't understand each other, that makes it more important to come together. Like, just like me and you, I mean, I don't know everything. And that's why I'm so happy to have you on, because I feel like it's such a great conversation to have for people to understand, because I know people are afraid to say, I don't get it, or, because they don't want to come off rude, or they don't want to say the wrong thing. So all of this information here I think is really, really going to be helpful today. Let's move on to the next couple of questions.
Yeah.
Are there any improvements the binary trans community can make to welcome the non-binary community more? Excuse me.
Great question. I always there's a lot of small tangible things that we can do for visibility if you are if you are able and safely able to do so. So like for instance, I always say that if you're binary, non-binary, if you're cis, if you're trans, if you're queer, or you're straight, everyone can do what I'm about to say, which is that if you have an email or a bio on social media or whatever it may be, to always include your pronouns, because pronouns are important for trans folks. Pronouns are important for anyone who is a human who is in conversation. So that means that if we all start publicly sharing our pronouns, not only does it have this more visibility and conversation about how do we respect people from the get-go. Okay. I would also even say that if you feel as if you are able to do so, whether as an ally or a trans advocate yourself, putting a little statement like gender inclusivity, or all are welcome here, something that is just visual, because that's the thing that I wish that I had when I was growing up. If I had seen one person who looked like me, if I had heard of one person who was doing what I have already done, that was all I needed. And so I'm trying to be that person that I needed by being visible through it. And so what I would challenge everyone to do is please do your part in spreading the positive visibility and the authentic visibility of gender expansive and gender inclusive identities, which also goes back to the words that we use in conversation. So calling people pal or bud or friend or guest versus ladies or men or sir, right? There are so many ways. There is gender neutral language for everything. I'm gonna hit you with a fun fact. The gender neutral term for niece and nephew is nibbling.
Nibblet?
Nibbling.
Nibbling.
Which I guess would make me a niblet. Yeah.
Niblet or nibbling? So it's nibbling.
Nibbling, yes, according to the internet.
Nibbling, like nibbling on your neck.
Kind of sounds like that indeed. And so the truth, there is language for everything. There is language for everything. Because if you think about it, who came up with language? We did. So we can create language like we've already done.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next. Because I don't want this live to cut off on us, because I know once it gets to an hour, it starts to act crazy. Okay, so let me see this. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Someone can relate to you, so that is amazing. Everyone that can relate to you, that's a blessing. Let's see.
And I also have some screenshots from the questions that folks sent in from before.
Oh,
do you want me to?
Yes.
Do you want me to hit one of those?
Yeah. There's so many down here. Ooh, it's so nice. There's just so many things popping up. Okay, let me do this one. Yeah. I'm a trans man, but I'm gay and feminine, and sometimes don't feel accepted by all trans men. How do I remind myself that I belong? That's a great one.
That's a fantastic question. I can relate to the feeling of not being completely supported in queer or even trans spaces. So obviously I'm not a trans man, but I identify as non-binary transmasculine, and I am a feminine person. It's interesting because my exterior is masculine, like how society would identify like the clothes I wear, my haircut, or whatever that is. But then my energy, the way that I talk, the way that I navigate space is femme. And so, and that is a beautiful part of me that society would like me to not have, because if I'm deciding to be masculine, then I should just be completely masculine. Right. Nay, I am finding the balance between all of the beautiful aspects of myself. And so when I'm in spaces, and I either don't feel welcomed, or I don't feel seen, or I don't see other people that look like me or who can relate to me, I always go back to kind self-talk, to being my own best friend, because it's so easy to downward cycle into negative, like internal negative talk. And so I've actually started to consciously speak kindness to myself, whether that's an affirmation while I'm brushing my teeth or taking a poo, or if I'm walking down the street and someone gives me a look that was a disrespectful look and that makes me feel bad, I tell myself that person doesn't understand me, and nothing that they say has any value, because I'm being the most beautiful and authentic version of myself. So I would say that a lot of it has to do with just internally reminding yourself how beautiful and valid you are, and that the society's traditions of what a man is, what a woman is, what a certain sex, gender, religion, whatever it is so restrictive from the get-go that whether we are cis or trans, we are being restricted by societal ideals of gender presentation or gendered behaviors that negatively impact everyone. So you are not alone. And it's hard work. It a lot of times I didn't believe myself when I started talking kindly to myself at first. It takes repetition and making it habit.
It really does. And I just want to throw something in there too, you know, even for people who are non-binary and who, you know, identify as a binary trans man or trans woman, you know, having that self-talk with yourself, you know, that's why I do a lot with the Braxis Car Talk. It's a lot of self-talk. The Braxis Car Talk is really self-talk. It's just that I end up putting it on there, you know, after I have a conversation with myself and I'm saying, oh, you know, I think people may relate to this or whatever. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is, you know, being at one with yourself, I should say, you know, and really, even if you have to literally get in front of the mirror and just say, I am good enough. I am the one. You are the man. You are the woman. You are that person. You are the perfect human being. You know, you need to say those things to yourself day in and day out. You need to give yourself daily affirmations. Even if you are not trans or you are trans, whatever you are, LGBTQ, you know, you need to give yourself these things to move forward in life, in all aspects of life, I feel.
This is I made this a little while ago. This is my self-care box. It says all for Lex, and I decorated it, and it says, I don't even know what it says. Your boy is beautiful. Oh, that's cute. I did it a while ago. BOI. Feels are good.
Feels are good.
And so one of my ways of, I wrote affirmations inside of it. Let me see, how do I turn this? Oh, there we go. So I decorated inside. What does it say? Oh, my E fell off, but it said, there is no darkness without light, is what it's supposed to say. And so then I can just pick up these little notes that I wrote to myself. You are stronger than your stresses. Wow. And just be able to remind myself that we all go through hard things and we can all pick ourselves back up from those things.
Yes, and that box is a major key. People don't realize, but that box is a major key. That box is what makes you, Lex. Like, seriously. And your outgoingness and your social ability and just your influence on our community alone And why people gravitate towards you is because you have gravitated towards yourself and you know yourself. And that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, you know, even trying to identify whether they're non-binary or trans or whatever the case may be. You know, they have a hard time doing that. So the fact that you've mastered that for yourself, and it's not even really mastered, but you continue doing the work behind it and you're consistent with it, that is, you know, what puts you in a position where you are today. And that's what a lot of people want for themselves. So the self-talk, the self-affirmations, that's a real major key for me, I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't we, I think we could probably have like 10 more minutes left here. Why don't we answer some of the questions, or why don't you answer some of the questions that people have for you on the live so that they can hear that as well?
Yeah, sure. Also, I saw someone ask me a question if I had top surgery. I have had top surgery. I had a double mastectomy with nipple grafts. And the other thing I want to say is that just because someone is non-binary, you know nothing about who they are. Non-binary could mean that my expression is always feminine, always masculine, always androgynous. It could be different in the morning than the afternoon, or one year from another. It could mean that so that would be like, look a ton of different ways. It could mean that I internally identify in so many ways. And so I wanted to just say that, like, this myth that there is like I can't be non-binary because I'm not androgynous enough, or I can't be non-binary because I'm comfortable with binary pronouns. Like, that is totally valid. You can be a non-binary person and use binary pronouns. You can be a non-binary person and follow society's traditional kind of ideals of what it looks like to express yourself in certain ways, because there's not one way to be non-binary in the same way that there's not one way to be trans.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, and that's the other thing I wanted to say, is that because I dress masculinely most of the time, but if I were to put on a dress, I am literally the same exact person. And so when I was in my room, I got one of my favorite tunics, my little sheer tunic, and I'm going to put it on because I'm the same person with whether I'm wearing my sport crop top or my see-through tunic. I'm still non-binary. I am still trans. I'm still masculine. I still have femme energy. And I'm just probably going to feel a lot cuter, actually. So here we go.
I know that's right. Hey, actually, that looks really good on you, though. Okay.
And look at that.
Yes. I love all of that. Yes.
I had to do it.
You had to do it. I am not upset at that at all. I actually like it.
Oh, so good. Let's see. Okay, so I have, let's see, any advice? I am non-binary and I want to go on T, but I'm scared it will change too much. Any advice? Okay, my biggest recommendation for anyone who has similar concerns is to do your background work. Check out the resources I have on my website that Rax is going to be putting up later, and just read about what the different physical, emotional, and mental changes are, whether it's you're going to be taking estrogen or testosterone, so that you know what to expect, and then you can decide based on that academic information. Please use peer-reviewed articles and journals or information from medical providers, and please only go forward with a medical transition if you have the guidance and the support of your therapist, physician, whoever it may be, so that you are safe in the ways that you are changing your body, because safety is key. But I would say that when I first started T, I didn't want my voice to change. I did not want body hair. Like I said, the sole reason why I wanted T was because I wanted my body to masculinize. But I said that my desire for the masculinization of my body was stronger than my dislike of having body hair or having my voice permanently deepen. And now that I've been on T for a year and 2.5 months, I actually started to really, I immediately started to love my voice. I decided that I actually liked having leg hair, which is something I never liked before. I still shave my armpits. I, for whatever reason, do not like to have hair on random parts of my body, and that is my preference.
Yes.
But so the point being was that I was scared going into tea because the only thing I wanted was the only non-permanent thing I could get from tea. And the only permanent things and semi-permanent things I was getting were the things that I could have done without. But with tea, you get all of it. You can't pick and choose the parts that you want. And so it came down to, I had to make a decision for myself. What made me feel better? I had to think into the future. Having a masculine body and presentation, and potentially having body hair that I could shave, or having a voice that was deeper that would take me a little longer to recognize. And I decided that my desire to have this masculine body was larger than my potential dislike for body hair or a deeper voice or bottom growth.
Right. And another thing too, I think a lot of pre-transition individuals, they feel like, okay, I don't want body hair. You know, they might say that I don't want body hair, but it's not like one day you wake up and you have a full beard or you have a bunch of body hair. It's a very, very slow process. And, you know, it's all, you know, it's natural. Yes. Hold on. Let me bring my leg up too. Hold on. I don't know if I can do it. Oh God.
Oh my God. I'm falling out of my chair.
We're showing the legs, the love.
I got some fuzzies now.
I just shaved my chest too. So I'm hairy all over, but I like my chest shaved. So that's what I do. You know what I mean? It's just all about personal preference.
Exactly. And the truth was, like, my immediate reaction when my physician who prescribed me tea, I was like, well, what, how fast is it? Like, would I get body hair? Like, how much would I get? Or like, how do I like prepare myself for it? And then she asked me, she was like, how hairy are the men in your family? And I started crying because my father is hairy. I was like, no, I don't want to have body hair. And now I'm in a place where I'm finding what my perfect balance is. So,
Good.
Yes. Do you have any
one more question
from here?
So let's take one more question before we come off of this, because it's about to give me the timer where it starts to clock down, where it cuts us off, and I don't want us to lose this information. I want to make sure that it saves and gets to the live so that people can hear everything that you've stated today. So
Absolutely.
Let's answer the question and hear what that's about.
This is a fantastic question. There are so many amazing questions. Someone asked, does HRT give you dysphoria due to not identifying as male? That's a great question. So for me, I do not identify with any sex. I don't really identify as female, as male, as intersex. I just see myself as being assigned female at birth and then working with what my mama gave me and being the person who I know myself to be. And so for me personally, I feel so much euphoria with having a flat chest. Like I would walk around naked or in sheer clothes for the rest of my life if I could, because I love my flat chest. And yes, like, folks will identify having a flat chest with the masculinization of a body, which is typically associated with males, which is then associated with men because of society's things. But for me, I do not feel dysphoric. I have spent a lot of time internally thinking and processing about the things that I needed to have who I am internally be seen by both myself and those outside of me. And so it actually gave me euphoria, being on testosterone and having a deeper voice and like having these fuzzies on my face, or like having this masculinization and this flat chest from top surgery. Even though I do not identify as male, it does not cause me dysphoria. It actually makes me euphoric because, like I was saying before, when society makes assumptions about people, we typically make assumptions in binaries. And so if I'm going to be wrongly associated with a binary, I would want to be associated with the masculine binary, which also aligns with the male or men side of the binary.
Okay. Amen to that. Well, thank you so much, Lex. Oh my God. I feel like I need to have you on again, because I feel
I'm
like
in.
We're not finished here. I really feel like we're not finished here. I feel like there's so much more information that people need to hear about, people want to know about from you. So what I'm going to definitely do is give yourself a shout out, let the people know what you do, your website, where to go. I'm also going to be posting that information on the IG stories after this, so be a lookout for that. But go ahead, Lex, tell the people where they can find you, what they can do to support you, and let's move from there.
Yeah, awesome. So you can find me on, I actually released my website on Trans Day Visibility, and my website is my name. It is www.lexhorwitz.com. And on my website, you can find information about me, like who I am, why I do what I do. You can find information on the different community resources and programs that I run. Which are, I have a starter binder program for folks who have never had a safe binder to have access to a safe binder free of charge. I have a starter program where a friend of mine actually hand knits peens, like crochets testicles onto a wire and then puts it into a like coated kind of thing. So it's a very elaborate starter packer that my friend and I make. And those are also free to anyone who has bottom dysphoria and is financially unable to purchase a packer. I do a community mentoring program that I call Chat with Lex, which is whether you are lonely because of COVID, or you have questions about transitioning, or you want to be my friend, you can sign up for a free or pay what you can or a sliding scale combo with me through video chat, messenger, call, whatever it may be. Moral of the story is I have tons of resources. I also have tons of pictures from my modeling on my website and on my Instagram. And please feel free to check me out on my social media, on Instagram, on Facebook. My Facebook is Mix Lex Horwitz. I have a Patreon, which is just by my name, Lex Horwitz. Patreon is a way for folks to monthly support artists or activists, and a lot of folks in the queer community use that. And so I use the funds that I get from my chats with Lex, from my from the chats with Lex, from any donations for programming, from anything that I pretty much make from my advocacy, I put back into all the programs. So I can send out the binders, I can make the packers, I can spend all the time making all these resources that the folks who are the most urgent need in our community can then like get the benefits from.
Excellent. That's amazing. So thank you, Lex. I love you so much. Everybody take that information, run with it. Make sure that you go check Lex out. I'm going to leave all their information in my IG stories, on my personal page, and on Stealth Bros & Co. So go look for that if you missed it here. And thank you, Lex. I truly appreciate you. You've educated me on so many things today, so I'm so grateful for you. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me. Stay safe.
You too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and tune in next week for our next episode.
Yes. Bye.